well, I think was, well, what it literally means is the advance in the army. So I don't think that art today is in advance of any army. Avant-garde traditionally means art that can't quite be understood by the masses because it's too sophisticated or too forward-looking. And I'm not sure that it applies to anything today because everything is possible. And also, I mean, film techniques have been co-opted, if you like, by commercial movies, even publicity on TV. They all use what used to be called avant-garde techniques. So the word avant-garde is like, it's like tea that's been watered down. You know, it just doesn't have the same flavor that it used to have. And when anybody says, I make avant-garde films, like I want to run in the other direction. Not avant-garde, and not experimental. I mean, they're completely accessible to whomever looks at them. Okay, a film that I made 45 years ago, and everybody hated it then, and now people are saying, oh, this is a really good film. So, was it avant-garde, or was it ahead of the time, or are people's sensibilities more encompassing of different works and different ways of perceiving things? I don't know. I don't know. You basically, how would you describe your work? I mean, basically you describe it the way other people describe it. I mean, in most film festivals they call documentaries, but they're not documentaries. Experimental in relation to what? Personal, yeah, I like personal better. Basically, it's very improvisatory. I mean, I know the subject beforehand, of course, and I order films that relate to the subject. And then I look at them and I select scenes, and I don't write anything in advance. I just, I have the scenes, and by the time I'm finished selecting the scenes and putting them in order, I kind of am very familiar with the material. So even though I'm not consciously writing about it, I'm thinking about it, but I don't think about it in a way that, oh, I gotta write that down. And I start editing, and I can edit speaking directly into the computer. So it's this kind of, I love it as a way of writing because it's very, well, as I said, improvisatory. And you just have, you know, like one shot follows another shot, and then you need like a bridge with the dialogue, and then it leads to the next cut, and then more bridges with the dialogue. And I think I'm pretty good at it. I've been doing it for many, many years, so it's fun. It's a fun way to do it. But also then when I've started editing, sometimes I write down, I think of a sentence and I'll write it down, and then I'll put it in the film. But it's a very free form kind of way of working. So I enjoy it very much. And people ask me, well, who do you make the films for? Basically, I make them for myself. I'm not such an unusual person that there aren't other people in the world who couldn't understand it or like it. So I'm very lucky that way. Other people do seem to like the film. Some of them do, others do not. And that's how I'm going to continue working. I don't have the rights. I started doing this kind of work 26 years ago, and I've never had problems. So I don't think I'm going to have problems now, because they're not visible. They're not showing in multiplexes. They're not on television. No television station would ever buy them because of the rights issues, and that's kind of what it is. And also every teenager with a computer is doing similar kinds of movies. I would say, and I would also say, as someone has written about me, I don't remember if he called me the grandfather or the godfather. I hope it's the godfather of the supercut. And I had to look up supercut on Google because I never heard that word before. So I'm the godfather of supercut. Well, yeah, that's one of the things I want to talk about in my master class. I don't know if you know this. It's a scene from this German movie about Hitler, The Last Days of Hitler, with Bruno Ganz. Well, somebody made a video in time to the German dialogue. They have subtitles in English, and the story is Hitler was very pissed that he wasn't invited to Michael Jackson's birthday party, and it's hilarious. And then everybody imitated it, and it's a brilliant idea. And there was also something, when Brokeback Mountain came out, everybody started using the music, and I Can't Quit You Yet, or whatever that the tagline is. They started making their own trailers. So in a sense, that's what I mean about every teenager who has a computer, and every teenager does have a computer, can do these things, and they do them. And I'm just older and have seen more films than they have, which is one way to put it. But yes, I mean, technologically, the films I do would not be possible without the computer technology of today. My influences don't really matter because they don't show up in my films. I don't think they do, or if they do, it's like very deep down. Hitchcock, Buñuel, Max Ophuls, Visconti. Yeah, they don't show up in my recent films, but they show up in my earlier films. And when I made narrative films, every time I was ready to start writing, I would read all of Harold Pinter plays all over again to help me learn how to write, because writing is always a learning experience, and you always have things to learn. Actually, yesterday I had an interview with somebody, and I started talking about this actress in the 30s, Anna Sten, and I said, oh, that would be an interesting thing to make a movie about, because she was a Russian actress, and then she moved to Germany, and then she was very beautiful, and then she was invited to Hollywood. And they put her in 3 films, all of which were flops, and that was the end of her career. And she was just not lucky with the projects that they selected for her, because they thought, oh, Garbo, Dietrich, Anna Sten, of course, very beautiful, spoke English very well with an accent that was not too hard to understand. And so I think I want to do this. So it's very improvisational, also, the way I think of these, way I come to these ideas.